Hey beautifuls, I hope you're having a great day. I wanted to offer a free copy of my book for anybody who's seeing this. This is a really lovely, rich transmission. It was channeled, and as I continue to channel material of different divine beings, things related to healing, manifestation, how to create your reality, just how to connect with your higher self and spirit guides, really all those things are in here. There's a fun chapter on battle magic, and when people read it, they mention goosebumps. They mention having like a rich transmission and energy that they feel tingling up their spine. So if you'd like a free copy, just DM me and I'll tell you how I can send it to you. It really only takes a couple minutes. There's a beautiful epic audiobook version and a few questions people have had on this. So what is channeling? How do you channel? There's a lot of aspects of our higher self that we can connect with. That when we look at the wider world, we can say, oh, this is a guardian angel. This is Thoth, the god of reading, writing, and magic. This is Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth and abundance, and Athena, the goddess of wisdom or war. And as you want to connect with the highest vibrations and personifications of these aspects of the world, you can learn how to raise your own energy, raise your own vibration, and connect with them. And you can learn how to connect telepathically and psychically, and how to accurately determine the difference behind a spiritual message from something of high vibration to, say, something from imagination or fantasy. And it's really important to know that, right? Like, magic is awesome, and magic is real, right? It's definitely a real thing, but there's stage magic, there's fantasy magic, there's misconceptions. So how do we clear that up? How do we take the science of magic, and I'll just hold this here, I think this is a good spot. How do we take the science of magic and really deconstruct it? How do we look at the aura, the energy body? How do we understand what chakras are in a real practical sense? How do we take all these models of psychology and personal growth and spiritual growth, these concepts of ascension, of having siddhis, like mystical abilities, and actually find out what are they? What are the scientific bases? What are a huge library of references and of scientific research and data that actually supports this stuff? And in years, like honestly 22 years of studying different types of magic and looking into it, researching shamanic systems, Kundalini yoga, a lot of different things, in Tibetan Buddhism, ritual magic, the light side of Wicca and witchcraft, working with herbs and acupuncture and energy medicine, all that's in here. And it's much more that can be included in one book. So the reason I want to give this away is a celebration of the next two that are coming out later this year. So I'll be posting those on Instagram, and I'll be sending out emails if you're signed up to get my emails from my website and my bio. And it's just a loving act of service to give these away, and to be able to give a book away for free feels really good. Just to know there's abundance coming in and to see that validated and how life has been going, and to also, pass that along to you. And a lot of the references, a lot of the things that I studied are in here too. So I mentioned, I think, 100 different sources. So if you wanted to learn about how to heal something really rapidly in yourself or somebody else, if you wanted to learn about channeling or manifestation or affecting the weather, if there's something inspiring to you, astral projection, a lot of that is stuff I teach online with students one-on-one, and then of course in this book and future books. So if you have any questions, if you want to know a little bit more about what's inside, please hit me up. And there's a few ways to get it. You can get it just in a PDF, you can get the Kindle version or the audiobook version. This takes a few more steps to give it for free just because we have to work with Amazon, but it's definitely very worthwhile. And I can say the enrichment for me in my own life, I've had incredible experiences where I just tapped deep within and I expanded my consciousness, and I felt at one with the clouds and the rain during a massive rainstorm. And while holding hands with my friend in the driveway, we actually felt the oneness of ourselves with the rain, with the clouds, and we felt ourselves pulling back. And then when we opened our eyes, within a 5-minute timer, we wanted to be kind of a little scientific with it, there was no rain within like a 1,000-foot radius of the house, and there was rain in all other directions, where previously it was completely raining on us in the car. And I've had beautiful blessings of signs, of shooting stars on command, and more shooting stars after that if I just missed it. And some really powerful things. I've had sprained ankles, I've had stuff messed up with my mouth, I've had family members who are near death, and through magic, which as I describe is the science of applied consciousness, I've learned how to heal those things. long term and very, very quickly. And it's really exciting, right? It's like, we hear these stories of these mystical practitioners who do these amazing things, who say a word, wave a hand, bless holy water or a holy site or a crystal, and we encounter that and we hear these great healing stories, but how do we do it in a practical sense? So I talk about some of the people I've studied with. Dr. Joe Dispenza, who healed a shattered spine through visualization alone. Dr. William Bankston, who studied at Ivy League universities like Brown and Indiana, who will take rats and they'll be injected with a lethal dose of cancer, develop tumors all over their body. Poor rats. He'll do a hands-on healing method that he teaches, and I learned it, and the cancer disappears, but then they actually can't get cancer again. And so it's really interesting to learn that we're figuring out that there's cause and effect with consciousness. Arthur C. Clarke said magic is just science we don't fully understand yet. And so as we learn to understand that science, and the 95% of reality that's 1/3 dark matter and 2/3 dark energy, we realize, auras and chakras and spirits and divine beings and angels, all these things, there is a place for them. We didn't think neurons could regenerate. We didn't think the world was round. And we found out those things were actually not true in the Western material sense. So even for those of you who are very skeptical, who are hyper-rational, who believe the material world is all there is, there's a lot in this about psychology, about working with the mind, working with the subconscious mind. So I really care to teach and transmit on my website. I have a ton of videos, a ton of interviews, a ton of blog posts, and how you can understand consciousness and the huge amount of resources available for you for tapping into your consciousness as it relates to the world around you. Maybe it's just enjoying life more with passion. Maybe it's freeing yourself from addiction. Maybe it's trying to understand what's the difference between a legitimate and an accurate psychic and a non-legitimate one. I've had a lot of times where I just had a knowing to call somebody and they said, "Oh, I was thinking about you. Hey, Valentino, just send me a direct message about the book and I can send you a little message about how to get a copy for free." And same for anybody. Just send a DM. You'd like a free copy of the book, and I'll be happy to take the steps to get it to you. But there are so many times when I did money magic, when life was financially a little bit tight, and a big job offer came in or a big client came in, and it was really wonderful. And how I describe that magically is through consciousness, whether you want to say it's through karma, through the law of attraction, through seeing yourself as the creator of the world around you and using the quantum observer effect, which of course takes a lot more time to explain than a short video how it's related, is we affect the probabilities of all the stuff in the world around us. Through the focused application of the right techniques in the right ways, you could say we could shift timelines, we could shift realities. Joe Dispenza and a lot of others said that our physical world phases into and out of our visible dimension 7 times a second. And so we know if you focus on particles at a very small scale, you affect what actually shows up in reality. If you measure light as a particle, it shows up as a particle. If you measure it as a wave, light shows up as a wave. And understanding E equals mc squared, matter actually is energy. And if you do a little basic algebra, matter and energy are light. So if you look at the research of Albert Fritz Popp, then we see cells communicate through light. So learning about the light body and energy work actually is working with matter, working with the physical reality. And that's really cool, right? That's really cool to see all these scientific references and all these mystical references and decoding all the stuff that is poetic or vague or maybe contradictory and making sense, hey Violet, and making sense of how do we know deep down the spiritual truth of the world, and how do we define spirituality? And a lot of times I'll get asked questions on interviews, where does religion fit in? Where do aliens fit in? If you're raised in a certain tradition, Jewish, Catholic, Muslim, Buddhist, Jainist, there's so many, and I really deeply respect all religions and traditions. But unless you were there when the original transmitter of that religion existed and spoke in that language, and you knew that language, you may not have gotten that transmission. And I don't want to speak for or against any specific religion, but oftentimes, it's hundreds if not thousands of years since those transmissions were given. And we have a lot of different interpretations and translations. And a lot of those may have been mistranslated, and there may have been political and egoic reasons for the translations to be changed. So, the ego is a powerful thing, And even if you're a spiritual teacher, somebody who teaches and talks about spiritual concepts, you might have a bias, an agenda, an intention, a desire, a wish for the world to be a certain way. And you might say, well, I think that person meant this. And you would change the translation. So a lot of times if you're trying to understand, where does spirituality fit in? Where does magic fit in? What is a soul? Like, how do you define a soul and a spirit or a chakra? There's so much out there on YouTube and on Google, and it's a little contradictory. So in 22 years of studying and practicing this stuff very deeply full-time, while sober, while on psychedelics, while deeply meditating, while studying with teachers who studied with high lamas, I've been working to decode this. And, like you, I'm a fellow teacher, and I love teaching and working with this stuff. I'm also an entrepreneur. I've started 13 companies. Some gross to over $1 million a year. And I'm really anchored in the material world. I do weight training. I live in Silicon Valley. I love doing quantitative analysis and project management and marketing. I really care to help you integrate your spiritual growth with the material world. So the idea that magic is real isn't about living in some fantasy. It's about taking consciousness and seeing how can you use consciousness in the material world. You can know the answers within silence, assuming your system is clear. And one of the things is maybe we're not clear all in every place. Maybe we have a trauma or a bias or an emotional wound. Maybe we get triggered with certain topics, and with those we can't connect as highly spiritually as we'd like to, however you define spirituality. And so a big part of this path is with healing. How do you heal your emotional body? How do you heal your consciousness? How do you tap in and see, is there healing that needs to be done? How can you tell? If you want to find a teacher, how can you tell if that teacher is legitimate? How can you allow your teachers to be human and make what some would call mistakes, to cut yourself the same slack? We hold spiritual teachers to this high standard, and if they slip up once, we're like, oh, that person's not for real. But they're human too. They have a vessel too. Imagine if you chose to walk the path of a guru and you got shot, or a loved one got cancer and died within a month, and it was really tough. Or you had children and your children were tortured. I know these are horrible examples, but do you think you'd be able to hold the same levels of alignment, of spiritual vibration? Or might you be, taken down a bit, and you have to get healing sessions and meditate and do other things to get back at that level of transmission? So forgiveness is a huge thing. And as we learn to forgive others, the spiritual teachers we love, the people we might demonize from one thing or another that may or may not be a legit scandal, we realize we all have stuff to give. We all have stuff to teach each other. We all have stuff to learn. And for the greatest version of yourself, as you see you are, for who you are deep down inside, what you can achieve in this world if you apply yourself, if you get your stuff together, if you fully show up and grow up, and if you're supported in all the ways that you want, you can achieve those dreams. And even though there's reincarnation, and even though you can say your soul or spirit is immortal, most of us only remember this life while we're in it. And so I really want to help you achieve your life dreams and your life goals. Maybe they're very materialistic, like be an accountant or have money in the bank and have kids and put them through school. Maybe they're moving somewhere or attracting a great partner or losing weight or gaining weight. I just said earlier, freeing yourself of an addiction, publishing a book, whatever it could be, getting out of debt. These are very practical things. And the nice thing about spirituality is that it's not separate. We talk about body, mind, spirit as one, and the value of a book like this, and again, for those of you who are just tuning in, send me a DM and I can send you a free copy. But the value of including spirituality in your life in a practical way is it isn't separate from body and spirit and from mind. I used to think to live a spiritual life, you had to shave your head, be a celibate monk, and live in a cave, right? And that's not everyone's path. Maybe for a small part, we live in a monastery or a temple to get intense training, but that's not really part of our life as a whole big picture. So I just wanted to end this video with sending you a lot of love, and if you want to continue the conversation, please shoot me a DM right now as you're inspired with any questions you have, anything you want to learn. If I can answer it, I will. If I can't, then I'll do my best to send you a reference or help you however I can. And it's such an honor to meet you and know you as a coach, as a teacher, and just as a fellow student of life. So thank you so much for showing up. And if you came here at the end, you can start at the beginning. And I also have a lot of stuff on Instagram TV. And I have a lot of shorter videos on Instagram as well from my feed. Oh, also, I have something called Wizard School. And it's very inexpensive. And if you're really, financially stuck, I can send you a coupon. But it has a lot of rich videos talking about the things we've discussed. Consciousness, meditation, energy work, psychedelics. Hey, Sari. Thank you. Love you too. And so a lot of the questions you've been having about how do these things affect spirituality? How do you engage in altered states of consciousness in a mature, intelligent, and sustainable way? How do you connect with a spirit guide? How do you protect yourself psychically? All this stuff. How do you manifest whatever you want in a realistic way? I love teaching this. So I know a lot of you are here live, but I want to keep these videos not too super long. So just sending you so much love and wishing you a beautiful, happy day.